Hello. All right. Hello. Welcome to my channel Code with Ome. I'm Ome Chukwemeka, and I'm doing this video tutorial for my mentees, my students for the NITDA National Institute for the, Technology Development Agency, the Blockchain Scholarship. I'm doing this video tutorial specifically for them. So if you're watching this, subscribe to my channel, and so you can see subsequent videos about the NITDA program. All right, so this video tutorial, I want to show you how to set up a GitHub account, and then how to clone a repository, and then how to work with the repository. All right, so the first thing we will do, some of you have tried to create a GitHub account using your phone, and you are having some capture issues, some issues to verify some things. I would recommend you use your laptop to create the account, or you use your phone browser to create the account. So to do this, you have to go to github.com. github.com. So in github.com, I would use an email address for one of my companies to create the account. So while you are on github.com, just go to sign up, then enter the email address. The email address I want to use is admin at 010werb.com.ng. So this is my company email address. So you can use your own Gmail address or Yahoo mail address. All right, so once I click continue, it's going to ask me to create a password. So you create the password. All right, then the next thing, I'll continue. It's going to ask me to put the username, so let me call it 010. You can use any username, but make sure that there's no spaces between your username. So something like this won't work. All right, so they have to be together. You can also use something like this or something like this as your username. So I'm using the same singular word. Okay, so I'm going to click continue. Let me see. Oh, you see, it's not even working. Let me see. Let me use small letter. Let me see if it will work. Username is not available. Okay, sorry, it's telling me username is not available. So let me try this Ome. Saying username is available, Ome010. It's available. Then remember you have to also always remember your username. All right, so click continue. So it's now asking me, would you like to receive product update and announcement via email? I would suggest you say yes, so that you know you are new to GitHub. I created my own GitHub account way back, all right, when GitHub started, or when GitHub was launched, before even Microsoft had to buy over GitHub. So that was when I created my own account. So do you remember that this process I'm showing you is for 2022 December. So it's going to also be similar, hopefully, in 2023. So by 2023 it may even change, or 2024 it may have changed, but this process is available for 2022 December. Okay, so I will select yes. Now it's not going to tell me start puzzle. So, and this way most of you have challenges with using your mobile phone, or some of you using your mobile phone web browser. So let me use this. I click start. So it's not telling me pick one square that shows two identical objects. So which square shows two identical objects? You see, this is identical, so I'll pick this. So it's going to reload. You see, that's where you have problem, because it takes time to reload. Now, which you say pick one square that shows two identical objects. You see, this is the one that shows two identical objects. Pick it. Then let's wait for it. Now I'm done. So it's now going to tell me create your account. I'll create my account. So it's telling me that a code, I could save this in my browser. Let me save it. Done on. Let me save it now. It's not, it has sent a code to this email address. So remember, I'm currently on a Windows operating system in the cloud, but my normal Windows operating system is Ubuntu. All right, so let me come over to my Ubuntu to look for my email code that has been sent to me. So this is the email. I'm yet to receive it, so let me see. Possibly it should have arrived. That's my email address. I have to wait for the code that was sent. I don't know why it's taking time, but then we'll have to wait for it. Okay, the code should have been sent. Let me check my spam. Okay, fine. Look at the code, it just arrived. So this is the code. I'll copy it. Now head over to my Windows and then paste. I right clicked and then paste. Now, how many team members will be working with you? I'm just going to say just me. You can select as many, but then because you're new to GitHub, just say just me. Are you a student or a teacher? You're a student, definitely. You're not a teacher, so just select student and continue. Now, what specific feature are you interested in? Collaborative coding, select it. Automation and CI/CD means continuous integration and continuous delivery, so select it. Security, like more like two-factor authentication, select it. You want enterprise level, select it. Now, client apps, you want to be able to use GitHub with your mobile app, yes, select it. Project management, you want to be able to manage projects, your project you are working on, yes. You want to be able to manage your team administration, yes. Then community, you want to be part of the GitHub community, yes. So just continue. Now, you can be able to select GitHub Pro because you're a student. There are benefits to that, but for this program, just select this free option, all right, so that you won't be battling with maybe payment or some things like that. But this, you can apply for this. You can also skip this process. So let me just select continue for free. Now it's preparing my account. Let's give it a little time. It's preparing my account, I think so. Perfect. So the account has been set up. See, the account has been set up. Now the next stage is for us to be able to create repository, fork a repository, and work with a repository. Now in the program, remember, you are told to install Visual Studio Code, VS Code, but me, I prefer using Sublime Text. All right, so I'm going to install Sublime Text here. Or basically, let me work with your VS Code. All right, let's install VS Code so you can see how it works. So VS Code, download, VS Code download. So I'm going to download it. For be sure to know which operating system you're working with, the bits, if it's 32-bit or 64-bit. So install the one specific for your operating system. All right, so let me install that for VS Code. So this for Windows 11. Depending on the OS you're working with, operating system, you can choose. These are for Linux distributions and this for Mac. So I'm going to install this. Let me be sure. All right, so you can see user install for 64-bit, 64, but I can't find any 32-bit here. So you need to be careful to be sure that you install that for your operating system. Okay, if you can't find 64-bit, then I would suggest you use Sublime Text. Okay, or you try to see if you can upgrade your system to 64-bit, so you won't have problems with installing some of the apps you'll be working with. So let's install VS Code. Now VS Code is a coding editor. You use it to code some of your stuffs. Okay, so it has downloaded, so let me open it. So this is my VS Code. How do you install it? I'm going to double click. If you have any question, you can drop it on the comments section, and remember to subscribe to my channel. Alright, so it's not telling me this installer is not meant to be run as an administrator. If you would like to install VS Code for all users in this system, download the system installer instead from this. Are you sure you want to continue? Yes, I will continue because this warning is absolutely not to be considered, and that's, remember, look at the code.visualstudiocode.com, and that's where I actually downloaded it. So for it to be telling me that warning, I wouldn't know why. But then remember, I'm working with with OS on the cloud. Okay, so come back here, click OK. So it means it wants to install it for all my users. I will accept the license. Next, create a desktop icon. Yes. Add open with code action to Windows Explorer context menu. Yes. Add open with code action to Windows Explorer directory context menu. Yes. So this all these ones were selected by default. So next, install. So it's installing it. Let's give it some few minutes. So I would want to launch it. So remember to tick this. If you don't want to launch it, you can untick it. So finish. So this is my coding editor. I could browse themes, choose the theme, choose the look you want. Let me black, like this is the dark is okay. This is I would like this. So sync to from other devices. Would you want to sync that? I don't usually work with VS Code, remember, so I don't know if I should select this sync to and from other devices. One shortcut to access everything. Reach support for all languages. So let me tick it, tick this, and then open up your code. Perfect. So next section. Now, convenient built-in terminal. Yes, I would want a built-in terminal. Limitless extensibility. Yes. Tune your settings. Yes. So lean back and learn. Yes. So next session, install Git. Now wouldn't installing Git here is okay, or we can download it. So I don't know which one should be right for you, because if I say let me install Git from VS Code, you may be using another coding editor and it may create problems. So let me skip this for now and select customize your shortcuts and then mark done. Or let me install Git. I will still show you how to install Git. Okay, so mark done. So it's walking it through. Let me see. So I could start coding, right? So let's say I'm working on a new open folder. For instance, I could go to documents, create a new folder. New. I had to do right click, folder. Let me call it my app, for instance, or I could call it NITDA, for instance. Hit enter, select it, then once select it. Now it said, do you trust the authors of the files in this folder? Yes. Yes, I trust the authors because I'm the author anyway. So I've opened this folder. Let me see. Okay, perfect. So this is the NITDA file. I could create a new file. I could do other stuff. So let me see let me open my terminal here. Right click. Let me see. Collapse folder, refresh explorer, stuff like this, run and debug, source control, extensions, let me see, outline, timeline, and so forth. Okay, so let's see if we can create a file, new file. Let's call it index.html, for example. Hit enter. So right click, command palette. You see some of these things. I wouldn't want to go into much details here. I don't want to go into more details, but then you could just take your time and then explore. Just check it out and then explore. All right. So you were taught on how to open the terminals and stuff like that. Could manage. Just want to click, so she can just take a look at what it looks like. You can also, this is your account, stuff like that. Okay, so if this like this is a HTML file, I could want to create a HTML file like this. It will take me to the boilerplate, the full boilerplate. Sorry, let me see. And go HTML. Close it. You see, I could begin to construct the HTML code and stuff like that. Okay, so I wouldn't want to do anything further, and I wouldn't want to save this file either. I've just shown you how to install vscode. Now, to be able to open our terminal, you can see this terminal here. New terminal. Clicking on it, new terminal. It will open up here. All right. So I could be able to say, let me see if Git is installed. Git version. If it installed it for me. Let me see. I think I would need to reload it, be able to see if Git was installed. But basically, to be able to access your terminal or your command prompt, you just go here. All right. Oh, Git is not installed, so it's not installed yet. So let's install Git. All right. So I'll close this VS Code, and then let me show you how to install Git. So that thing I did that last time didn't actually install Git. So Git download for Windows 10 or for Windows 11 or for Windows 8, it's just the same thing. Okay, so it's loading. Let's let it open. So this for Git download. You can install for Mac OS, Linux. I'm going to install for Windows, so this for Windows. Now check if you are using 32-bit or 64-bit. I'm using 64-bit. How do you check that? Let me show you. You can actually do so by going to your start and then going to control panel. I think no, not control panel, system. I'm looking for the system information. System information. Yes, this is it. System information. So what's the system information? You see, I'm using Microsoft. This is a Microsoft server. Okay, I'm using where do I find the 64-bit? I think it should be down. 16 gig RAM. Okay, where is it? I should be seeing something like x64. I'll be past it. Yeah, this is it. x64. System type is x64 based PC. Okay, ignore this thing you are seeing here, system 32. This is just for the directory, the folder whereby the operating system was installed. All right, so I'm using x64. Okay, so let me close it. All right, so let me download 64 for Windows. I want to show you how to install Git. Now remember that Git and GitHub are two different things. Git is used for version control, while GitHub is the platform in which Git is applied. Okay, so we have GitHub, we have GitLab, we have Bitbucket. There's so many other platforms like that are similar to GitHub for version control. Version control is to control the versions of your applications when you are writing your codes. All right. So at this level, you don't need to go that deep, but just know that there are two different things. So after registering on GitHub, to be able to use GitHub, you need to install Git. All right. So next, I'm installing it now. Additional icons on desktop, so I will select these two. Exactly. Check Git for daily update. You may want to be checking for daily updates. I wouldn't want that. I want that because I'm in the cloud anyway. So you can also do that, but remember that it will be using your data. So you can then maybe ignore this. Now add a Git bash profile to Windows Terminal. I would want this. So next. Now which coding editor would I want to use? I should have installed Sublime Text because that's what I prefer to use. But since we installed VS Code, so we're going to select VS Code here, Visual Studio Code as default, as Git default editor. So I'll select it. So next. Now let Git decide. Yes. Override the default branch name for new repositories. I don't want to select it. So let me use next. Recommended CDs, so next. Or use bundled OpenSSH, yes, next. Use OpenSSL library. I would want to use this. Okay, so next. Yeah, we want to use the Windows checkout style because I'm on a Windows. Next. I would want to use the Windows default console instead of this. Okay, so I'll click next. Default, fast forward or merge, yes, next. Git credentials, yes, next. Enable file system caching, yes. Enable symbolic link, yes. So next. Enable experimental support for studio consoles, yes. Enable experimental built-in file system monitor, yes. So install. So that's basically it. To install it, and I will check it, and you will see it's working. Right, it's coming up. Finish. I could launch the Git bash, which is also a terminal for Git. It comes with its own terminal. Then you see I could view the release note. It's going to open this in my browser, so let me select this and launch it so you can see. So this is the Git bash. How do you want to open this file? Yes, I want to use it open with Microsoft Edge. So this is the release notes. You can read it if you want to. In this course, we won't be reading it, but I have to come here so that you can be able to see that I'm installing Git for 2022 December. Okay, so let me close it. Now let me open. You see, this is the Git terminal. Okay, I could do Git double version. Let me see. This is the version that is installed. So I could close this. To be able to access the Git terminal, you just have to come. Here. Let me minimize. This is the Git terminal. So when I double click on this is it. Remember what I did before. I'm going to check that Git is installed. You can check it like this. Once you see this, means your installation worked correctly. Now I could open VS Code, double click on VS Code to check it again. This is a terminal. I would close the terminal and open it again. So let me open a new terminal. Git. double version. Let me see. You see now, means it's installed correctly. Then I could use PowerShell. VS Code is actually pulling in PowerShell. So let me show you another terminal you can use. Allow me to scroll down a little. So you could use here CMD, which is for command prompt. It's also a terminal. So if I do git hyphen version, you see, boom, it's working. Let me close it. I could also look for PowerShell. PowerShell, look at it, PowerShell. So I could write PowerShell, so it can bring it up for me correctly. So I would use this particular one. Remember, let me use this. You see, I want the one that has the blue background. So follow me carefully so that you'll be able to use PowerShell. Usually has blue background. So this, I think, is this one, x86. So check it carefully. X86, yes, perfect. This is what I'm looking for. It has the blue background. So if I do git version, perfect. Now let's do something that's very critical and important. Using VS Code, let me install Sublime Text first, because you can also use Sublime Text to show you guys some of the things. Since some of the codes I'll be writing maybe on Sublime Text, I will still use the VS Code. Okay, so I recommend Sublime Text for people who are still starting. VS Code is mainly for professionals, so try and start with Sublime Text so you can be able to get a handle of all these separate parts, because in VS Code all the parts are working together, but in Sublime Text you have to be able to bring them together yourself. All right, so let me install Sublime Text. Sublime Text has Sublime Text 3 and Sublime Text 4, so just choose the one that you like. I prefer Sublime Text 4. Okay, now to work with Git on Sublime Text to manage your repositories, you need to also install what we call Sublime Merge. So let's install Sublime Text first. Sublime Text 4. Now for Windows, select this. Check if it's a 64-bit or 32-bit. Okay, so check which one you're installing. So I'll download it. Once you finish downloading it, I will have to download Sublime Merge. You see, it's telling me try Sublime Merge, but let me search for it. Okay, so I'll just show you the process. Sublime Merge is used to handle it. There are also other apps that is used to handle Git repositories, like Source3. You could also try that out. So let me download Sublime Merge. Sublime Merge. See, for Windows. Boom. Now let's open that for Sublime Text and install it. Sublime Text, you see, is also already bringing it. So let me go to the folder. Let me go to the folder. Okay, let me not be using this shortcut so it won't confuse you. Now this is it, Sublime Text. When I double click, now yes, it has come up. So next, add to Explorer context menu, yes. Next, install, yes. So I'll finish. Okay, now let me double click and install Sublime Merge. Double click, same thing. Next, install. Alright, so finish. Now that I'm done with this, let me show you how Sublime works. This is for Sublime. So this is how it looks. So if you installed it, you need to also go to preferences, choose your select theme. I would want to use adaptive. This, yeah, this is cool. Now come here again, go to view. I want to see the sidebar show open files. Yes, so when I open a file, it will always show here. Okay, so I could expand it. I could also change that theme preferences, select theme. I could check it back to default. Okay, you see, I could also go change, just choose what you feel works for you. Select theme again. I could use default dark. Yeah, this is also okay, so that you can be able to see your menu. And I prefer that adaptive, so I won't be seeing this. I'll just be focusing on my code. Okay, and I could also open a file, a folder, open folder, NITDA. Remember this, I created it on the document, so select it. It opens it. Look at the HTML I created. You can also create a new file. Let's say Control S. Remember, about.html. Try it out, save it. You see the two files are there. Okay, now let's now work on version control. Okay, so assuming I go to my GitHub account. Where's the GitHub account I created? Here is it. Now I could create a repository using this icon here, or I could just come here and then go to your repositories. See, there's no repository. I'll then do new, and then what repository do I want to create? Let me create NITDA Blockchain. Now remember, when creating a repository, you cannot create a repository like this space. You either use a hyphen or use an underscore, or you write the words together. Okay, it has also even given you a sample. How about you use effective course, something like that. Now remember to also put a description, which is NITDA. What's your repository about? NITDA Blockchain Scholarship. Now this repository, I want it to be public. If it's private, you will require username and password to be able to work with it. Okay, so let me make it public, means anybody can clone it. All right, so I'm going to add a readme file. Once I click on readme file, that thing I wrote here will be added to it, and you can also add further things to this readme file. Then gitignore, depending on the programming language you're working with, there are some files you shouldn't put on your repository by default. So you can see some Python files, Golang. So there are so many programming languages and frameworks depending on which one you're working on. You see C++, you see, let me see if there's Go. Yeah, you see Go there. There's Go. There's Python. Yes, you see there's Python. There's Node, which is for the back end of JavaScript. You see, I'm not sure JavaScript is there because JavaScript files does usually have a file. There's Java. JavaScript doesn't usually have a secret file that you shouldn't upload. Okay, so you look for the right one. So in this case, let me assume we are working on Golang programming language. So let me select Go. That's the project we're working on. For instance, license. You need to take time to study these licenses so you can know which one you're working with, which one you will prefer. But then usually Apache license 2.0 is for open source, means anybody can work with your code for commercial purposes, for private purposes, for whatever use case. Okay, but they however have to give you a copyright that you actually wrote the code. So take time, go through all these licenses, and then know which one you should be using for your code. So in my own case, sometimes when I'm working on people's project, I usually used to select this MIT license. But in this case, we'll select license 2.0. You can actually ignore the license. I think there's a place to ignore it. You can select none. Okay. So, but as a developer, always remember to select a license. It will save you a lot of stress or some people stealing your code. Okay. So create repository. Now I've created this repository and it has created the git ignore file for me, the license file, the readme file. So when we open this file, remember this git ignore is for Golang. These are the files you should ignore. I could also open the allow me to close some of this because we are done with them. Let me close some of this. Okay, perfect. So license, this is a license. Open it. I'm always right clicking to open. So so this is the code for the license. Now remember, let me open for readme. Right click, open. So you see, this is that thing I wrote there, NITDA Blockchain Scholarship. Right. So how do we clone this repository? Someone who wants to fork this repository can actually click on this fork button. It's not active now because I am the owner of this repository. If you are viewing this repository, you'll be able to see this fork option. You can then click on fork and you fork it. Okay. Now let me clone this repository. I prefer to always use the HTTP cloning pattern. You can use SSH or GitHub CLI. So for the sake of this tutorial, always try to use this. So I'll copy this URL. I'll copy it. So remember that this URL ended with something with .git. Look at it. Means it's the JIT file. Ended with .git. You can actually download this repository. Okay. You can also open it with your GitHub desktop if you have it installed. So let me copy this again and then go to my vscode or terminal. Is the same thing, the same way to clone. All right. Let's try vscode first. Now remember that I'm in this directory, administrator, documents, NITDA. I created this folder, but I want to leave this folder so that I can be able to work with my code. So I'll do cd double full stop enter. It will take me back one step. All right. So when I do git, if I want to clone it, I'll do git clone. You see now, and I'll paste that code. Some key binding don't go to the terminal by default and are handled by Visual Studio Code instead. Okay, I'll just close this. I could configure the settings, but let me just close it. Now hit enter. It's cloning it. It has cloned it. So when I do something like ls, it's going to list all the folders in the document folder. You see, this is the one I created and this is the one I cloned. So how do I enter this repository, this NITDA blockchain? So I will do cd NITDA hyphen blockchain. I've entered it. When I do ls, it will list all the files and folders there. ls means list. So when I want to open my folder, let me scroll up a little. I could just come here, open folder, look at it here, just select it, select folder. Do you want to save changes? It's asking me if I want to save changes for the other one. Yeah, let me save it. Yes, I trust this folder. Now you see, these are the files I'm working with. So I could now create a new file. Create a new file here using this icon. Let me call it index.html for instance. Hit enter. Let me quickly consult a HTML code, something like this. This is my boilerplate. I think I taught you guys this, but when I'll be making the video tutorial for the HTML, I will explain this, what I'm doing here, in detail. All right. Title, so home for instance, I'll just call it home page. Then I'll consult my body tag, call it h1 for instance. h1, this is the home page. Okay, what I'm doing here is the same thing. So I'll have to copy the file part. I'll right click, copy the file parts. Where is it? Where are you? I need to install it, or let me see if I can do it here. Yeah, I had to right click here, copy parts, or copy relative parts. So you always copy part. So when I go to my browser, this is my browser, like this, right click, paste and go. pasting it, hit enter. Nothing is showing, so why not? Let me see if my code is working. Yeah, it should show something. It's scaling. Let me, okay, I didn't save it. Control S. Let me save. Control S. Now go to browser again. Reload. Yeah, it's showing now. It's showing now. So this home page should not be showing here. It should be showing here. So let me correct that error. It's an error. It should not be showing here. And that's because the spelling is wrong. Title. I didn't spell it correctly. Title. So Control S. Load my browser. You see, yes, it's working perfectly now. Now that I have this code, how do I then send it back to this my repository? So it will show up here. How do I do so? So I'm going to show you two ways. I'm going to do it with VS Code and then Sublime Text or Sublime Merge. Okay. Now I would come here. You see, this is the version control for JIT. So what I'll do is to click here. Now it's telling me to commit this file. How do I commit it? I'll first of all name the commit. I'm going to call it first commit. Alright, so when I hit commit, there are no stage changes to commit. Oh, I'll have to stage it first. Would you like to stage all your changes and commit them directly? Let me show you how to stage. So let me cancel. I would have done it directly, but then I think the stage changes is this plus sign. This plus sign is to stage. Plus sign, remember, this is for discard changes. This is for open the file. This is for the file part. Means it's untracked. So when I click here, I've staged it. Stage changes. When I'm done, I will now write this first commit again and then click on commit. Make sure you configure your username, user.name and user.email in JIT. So I'm going to open JIT log to configure it. Right? Open JIT log. So it's telling me to configure this JIT status all. I think so. Reference object name object this. How do I do that? It's becoming tedious. So let me just commit and see. Cancel. No email was given and auto detection is disabled. Username, I think no email. Username is what? I think it's telling me to add it. Let me see. I need to open that file and then debug it. Just give me a few minutes. Username is I think Ome. To set your default account, omit global to set the identity only in this repository. Okay, it's telling me to, sorry, I've seen it. It's telling me to run this in the terminal. I'm going to run this. But then I'm going to replace this with my email address and I'm going to replace this with my name. Okay, so let me copy this. Copy it. Open terminal. A new terminal. Come here. New terminal. Remember, you can actually do this with PowerShell or command prompt. Or let me use PowerShell. Okay, let me use PowerShell or command prompt. So that you can be able to know that it's done the same way. There's nothing too special. So CMD command prompt. Let me use it. So what was it telling me to to do. So it may tell you to do the same thing. So git, remember, config hyphen global user dot email. Good. So the email I used was admin when we created a GitHub account. I mean 010web.com.ng. Close it. Now I'm going to hit enter. Perfect. I'm going to do the next for the rest line of code. Config global user dot name, and then what was the username I chose? Then I chose Ome 010. Yeah, that was what I chose. Remember that your username. Then enter. Perfect. So let me see if it will work now. It should work. So commit. Perfect. You see, it worked. I've committed the changes. Remember, I staged and I committed it. So let's go to our browser. You see that the changes is there. Browser. When I reload this, that's for initial commit. Okay, sorry. Since I've committed it, I need to push it. Let me go back here now and then push it. I need to push it. How do I push it? Watch here. These three buttons. Click on it. Push. You see? Push. It's pushing it now. Now it's going to ask me for me to sign in with my browser or with a code. I could use my token. Okay, so let me see if let me click on sign in with browser. I just hope it's easy for you. Else we would have created our own token, because GitHub now works with token. We would have created a token. So let's open browser. Authorize JIT. Let me authorize it because I already signed in with my browser. So let me authorize it. Authentication succeeded. Okay. So let's see if that's pushed our code. Yes, our commit has been sent. So when we reload our browser, let's reload our browser. Remember, this is my username. Okay, so reload. You see that file, index.html. See the file now. So when I click on it, you see that code I wrote. I could modify this code here and then do git pull. So let's try it. Okay, let's try it. Let me modify the code here. Watch. Or someone can be able to push a code. Let me just modify it and then do git pull so you can see that the changes is going to work. So click here. Let me try something like h2. This is a new change. h2. Remember to close it. Save it. How do I save? Let me see. Is there a way to save it below? Yes, commit changes. Click here. I could make a comment, but then I've made the commit. Okay, perfect. So I now have this file now. I'll go back to my Visual Studio Code and do git pull. How do I do git pull? I will come here again. These three buttons to pull, or I could check here, pull. You see, it has updated our code. That thing I wrote in GitHub is now here. Okay, now let me now show you how it can be done with Sublime Text and Sublime Merge. Now, having shown you this and how to fork a repository, you can actually fork a repository using this button. So a repository like the one Callistics Iguelo shared, once you open the repository, you will see this option highlighted. Just click on it and then follow the process. Is quite easy and straightforward. Okay, so let me work with Sublime Merge and Sublime Texts, and then we'll call the course a wrap. Okay, close it up. So let me allow me to close this. Okay, let me close this. Let me close this. Okay, and then Sublime is opened already, so I could then open a new file or new folder. That folder we cloned is what I'm going to open. So go to Documents here, select folder. Now you see that our file. Now let me add a new file called About. New file, Control S, about .html. Remember, I could actually come here and select this HTML, or I could leave it like that. It will automatically insert it. So this is the HTML you should select. This, remember, you see, to have deleted that .html I added. So save. Perfect. So let me construct my boilerplate HTML. I'll just hit enter because it's the first one is selected. HTML. This is the basic boilerplate. The basic boilerplate for constructing HTML file. Okay, so I'll call this about page, and then put in like tab h1. Press tab h1. Now I'm going to call this about. Say this is the about page. All right. Correct. So I'll save it, Control S, then right click, copy file path. Remember that in VS Code we had to come to the file itself to click it and then copy the file path. You see now in Sublime Text it's not showing us that. Okay, here, but there you have in Sublime Text you have to click on the body to copy file path. Okay, that was why it was giving me a little confusion then, because I'm used to Sublime Text. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is to go to our browser. It's our browser. Then paste the code, paste that URL. Right click. It's still loading. Okay, right click, then paste and go, or paste. So let me click on paste and go. You see, this is the about page. All right, so when we then, let me scroll down a little again, and then let's push this code to GitHub. So I will just come here, right click, and then see open Git repository. Open it. Okay, open Git repository. You see that first commit we did when we used VS Code. Now this is our file, untracked file. Click here. Let me go up a little. Now stage all, double click. See, Sublime Merge is more straightforward than VS Code. Okay, you now know where to stage. So when I click here, since the first commit I did was is called first commit, the second one I did, which I did on GitHub, is now called update. It called it update by default. I didn't name it. I should have named it anyway. So I'm now going to call the next commit second commit. So try to follow a normal convention of using numbers or the purpose of the code you have written to do your commit, to name your commits. All right, so I'm calling them second commit, then commit file. You see now. Then next thing I'm going to do is to click this up arrow, which is to push it. This down arrow is to pull. Okay, so I've exposed it to push, pull, clone, commit, stage. stage a commit. See, I've exposed you to those keywords, so I'm going to click on push. It's now pushing main to origin. That's pushed it. Now when we go to our browser, you see this about us file. You see, go to our browser in Git. Let's go to, sorry, not our browser, in Git. So let me open it here. So click here, you see the about, see about.html. Okay, so let me show you how to pull it with Sublime merge about. So once I modify the file, remember how to modify, you click this arrow to edit the file. Let me use the h2 tag, h2. This is the modification. I didn't spell it correctly. h2. Okay, now I'm going to name it. And remember, the last time I did this, I didn't name it. So how do I name it? It's going to call it for me, update this. But let me call it third commit, or third commit pool, or so that you can know that it was a pooling. Okay, now when I save it, save. Now it has saved it. I will now go to Sublime merge, then click on pool. Does this? I think you can also do it here. Okay, no, you won't, can't. So pool, you see that third commit pool. Now when we reload our browser, let me show you in Sublime text. So that's in that thought. This is the modification. You see it's here now. Do Control save, Control S to save. Go to our browser. There's our code. This is about page. Reload. You see it now. Now I did not show you how to create branches. Creating a branch is quite advanced, not all that advanced, but within the scope of the tutorial I'm showing you, we won't get into branches. Okay, I may do another video for that, and then showing you how to use the command line to handle your git commits and stuff like that. It's quite easy and smooth. Okay, for now we'll stop here, and if you have any questions, leave it on the comment section and I will answer you. If you encounter challenges, also reach out to me and I'll help you sort it out. Remember that this tutorial is mainly for my mentees in Ebonyi State. I'm using it to demonstrate for them so that they can be able to catch up with the NITDA program. Thank you. Please subscribe to my channel because I'm going to do other video explanations of the courses you have been taught on fifth work and the rest. I'm still going to do courses like that for how to link your Cent.B to your fifth work, how to understand blockchain, and then I'll explain the blockchain theory. So this is the first video, and thank you and God bless.